This is a fan-generated show. If you would like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com, and also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All your support is greatly appreciated. Jihadist Psychopath by Dr. Jamie Glazov. I will tell you as an expert on Sharia, as a former child bride who has suffered and faced my own jihadi psychopath, I want you to go and order this book on Amazon.com or go to jamieglazov.com. Get a copy for yourself. You know why? Because you need to be equipped with the knowledge to fight our enemies so you can save your daughters and your granddaughters from future of Islam.
Good evening. Welcome to the Jamie Glazov Moment. Tonight, Rashida Tlaib and the Palestinians' safe haven for Jews. My friends, you've probably already heard by now this controversy that's broken out recently over Rashida Tlaib and her very intriguing comments. The controversy was that Tlaib made the statement about how when she thinks about the Holocaust, and she said this in a certain context, which I'll discuss in a minute, that it gives her a calming feeling. Because overall, her point was that she gets the calming feeling because her Palestinian ancestors provided a safe haven for Jewish victims of the Holocaust or for Jews that were escaping after the Second World War, etc., who came to the region of Palestine, and that the Palestinians had somehow given a safe haven to Jews. Now, she said this on a Yahoo News podcast, Skullduggery, in an episode titled "From Rashida with Love." It just, my friends, it's hard to know sometimes where to stop it. It just, even this "From Rashida with Love" is a whole episode in and of itself. Now, Tlaib, on some levels, was accused by some of somehow. The accusation was made somewhere that her meaning was that the Holocaust gives her a calming feeling. That's not, if you watch the interview, that's not what Tlaib was specifically saying. It's not the Holocaust that gives her a calming feeling, but she gets the calming feeling in thinking about the Holocaust in terms of how the victims of the Holocaust and other Jews that left afterwards came to the safe haven that her ancestors gave her. But it's still, yeah, so she didn't mean that the Holocaust gave her a calming feeling, but in this context that we're discussing, it's still a very strange thing to say. The first thing I would say is, Rashida, this isn't about you. It's not about you and how good you feel about what some ancestors did. Like, when you're discussing the Holocaust, perhaps the rape of Nanking, the Gulag Archipelago, any kind of mass tragedy, or even a tragedy, let's say on a smaller scale, that's still a tragedy. Let's say the parents have lost a child to murder, or some tragedy befell somewhere. To start approaching that issue and to start talking about yourself and how you get a calming feeling about it because one of your ancestors did something for the people connected to this tragedy, it's very problematic, to say the least. And it's even more problematic when it's not true. So let me go further here. Let me go further here, and I apologize if I seem a little bit slow and disoriented here, but we're dealing with so much pathology and so many lies that sometimes it's difficult to know where to begin and to end. But this whole thing about her own calming feeling, there's something very narcissistic here, lacking empathy here, and also it's all based on a lie. So somewhere, Rashida Tlaib, if you watch the whole statement, is talking about how her ancestors' suffering had provided Jews their land. That's her overall meaning. So again, she's referring to her ancestors' suffering rather than going into detail about the suffering of the victims of the Holocaust, which she brings up. So that's very telling. And that somehow her ancestors had lost their land to create a safe haven for Jews. To say that this is historical revisionist fantasy, it would be an understatement. There's a Holocaust denial going on here on another realm. And my friends, keep in mind that whenever there is Holocaust denial, and I studied this for many years, whenever there is a Holocaust denial, you see a yearning for another Holocaust and the attempt to perpetrate another Holocaust. And whenever you see Gulag denial, you always see this yearning for another Gulag. Today, in our terror war, whenever you see jihad denial, you definitely see the enabling of jihad and the yearning for more jihad. Overall, my friends, what Rashida Tlaib did in that statement was that she was masking the collaboration of Palestinian leaders with Hitler and with Palestinian opposition to Jewish immigration. This is what she's masking. And she's also masking the general war that has been waged against the Jewish people in that region before the Second World War, during the Second World War, and after the Second World War. Many Palestinian Arabs violently opposed Jewish immigration into Palestine before, during, and after the Holocaust. The Jewish presence in that area dates back thousands of years. In other words, the Jewish people have a historical connection and claim to the land that we know as Palestine, that region. The modern migration of Jews back to Israel predated the Holocaust by many decades. Just want to bring up some of these facts here because it's very important to understand the context here. With the Balfour Declaration in 1917, the British government had supported the establishment of a Jewish state in the area. The Arabs rejected that idea. In 1937, the British Peel Commission proposed a two-state solution to Jews and Arabs in the Palestine region. The Arabs rejected it. So let's go further here in terms of Tlaib talking about how her ancestors gave a safe haven to Jewish people after the Holocaust, and how this gives her a calming feeling. During World War II and the Holocaust, Palestinian Arabs played a key role in the mass murder of Jews. The Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, Muhammad Amin al-Husseini, the Palestinian leader at that time, met with Adolf Hitler and allied himself and Palestinian Arabs with the Nazis. He collaborated with the Nazis, broadcasting pro-access, anti-British, and anti-Jewish propaganda via radio to the Arab Muslim world. Amin al-Husseini incited violence against Jewish people, against the British authorities in the Middle East. He mobilized Muslim support for Nazi Germany. He recruited Muslims for service in the Nazi military, in the Waffen-SS and auxiliary units. Just look up Amin al-Husseini, for instance, at discoverthenetworks.org, a great site to go to, and learn about him. Everything you want to learn about Amin al-Husseini and who he was, who he represented, what he engaged in, what he symbolized in terms of the disposition of Palestinian Arabs. To hear Tlaib talking about how she gets a calming feeling that Palestinian Arabs gave a safe haven to Jewish people in Palestine after the war, it's just, I'll search for words during this moment and afterwards, but I think you're getting the idea. After the Second World War, just like Jordan, Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon, Israel was created on land that originally belonged to the Turks. Land that the Turks had lost in World War I because of their defeat. So all these countries that I just named, you know, that land was carved out of the former Ottoman Empire, and the same with Israel. In other words, there was no independent Arab or Palestinian state that ever existed in Palestine. There wasn't that. I mean, my question is, what was the name of the country? What was the name of the state? Who were the leaders? There was no independent Arab and Palestinian state that existed, and therefore there was no homeland that was lost. The Palestinian Arabs continued to oppose Jewish immigration throughout this whole time. They refused to live peacefully with the Jewish people or with any Jewish state. For instance, after the Second World War in 1947, there was the UN partition plan of mandatory Palestine, which would have created Israel and as well as an independent Arab nation for the Palestinian Arabs. That was the 47 UN partition plan. We carve out Israel and we also carve out an Arab nation. The Arabs rejected the 1947 UN partition plan. They were not interested in a home for the Palestinian Arabs. They could have had it. They just don't want the Jewish people there or to have their own home officially. Even though the Jewish people are already there, they don't want Israel. They don't want a Jewish state. But a Jewish state was created nonetheless. The Arabs rejected their own homeland in that 47 partition plan. So after Israel is created, the Arab leaders encourage all the Arabs in that region to flee the region, flee if they're within Israel, flee if they're in the surrounding areas, and join the invasion that started. And that's what happened. So that the Arabs that escaped the region at that time, they went along with the invasion of Israel by Arab countries, Egypt, Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Iraq. The Arab countries invaded the new state of Israel that was created to destroy it. And so did the Palestinian Arabs that left that region and waged war on Israel. So I don't see how this is providing a safe haven to the Jewish people whatsoever. A few more facts. Before the Six-Day War in 1967, throughout the whole duration of the Jordanian occupation of the West Bank and the Egyptian control of the Gaza Strip, Palestinian nationalists never talked about any desire for an independent state. This only happened after 1967 when Israel took control of those areas after the 67 war. So it's very interesting that when the West Bank, when Jordan occupied the West Bank and when Egypt occupied the Gaza Strip, there was never any talk for an independent Palestinian state. They're only interested in this after the Israelis took over those regions. My friends, what are some of our conclusions? Rashida Tlaib's contention that her ancestors had provided Jews a safe haven is completely false. It's connected to, and it's a species of Holocaust denial, because there was an attempted genocide. There was a war being perpetrated against Israel throughout, before, during, and after the Holocaust by the Palestinian Arabs and by Arabs throughout the Middle East. And so to say this, it's connected to Holocaust denial. It's also connected to Holocaust denial because, as I said, Amin al-Husseini was enabling and engaged in the whole attempt at Holocaust and in the Holocaust. He was begging Hitler also to bring the final solution to Palestine and to the Middle East and to the Arab world. So that's the truth of the matter. Rashida Tlaib also made the claim, this whole claim, this is very important. In that interview, she made this claim in the context of arguing for a one-state solution. And the goal has always been for the people who hate Israel and want to destroy Israel to have a one-state solution, because the one-state solution means that the Arabs will overwhelm the Jewish population, which effectively destroys Israel and, of course, leads to the genocide against the Jewish people and Israeli people within Israel. So the one-state solution is a genocidal agenda against Israel, and Rashida Tlaib is making these false comments within an overall argument of supporting a one-state solution that will lead to genocide against Israel and Israelis. There is no coincidence that a one-state solution, by the way, is backed by Hamas. So Rashida Tlaib backs a solution that is also backed by Hamas. I also want to bring up that after the Second World War, the Islamic Middle East persecuted, slaughtered, and expelled its own Jews. And close to 1 million Jews were expelled from Muslim countries after the Second World War. This is the horrific story of the expulsion of the entire Jewish communities from Arab lands after the war. There's complete silence on this issue. Be interesting to ask Rashida Tlaib what she thinks about this expulsion of entire Jewish communities from their homes in Arab lands. What is the overall context of Tlaib's remark, once again, or her remarks? Keep in mind that the day after her inauguration, when she was voted to be a representative in the House, she hung a map of the world in her office, and she placed a sticky note over Israel on which she wrote the word Palestine. What does that mean? You know, in terms of all of this controversy, I couldn't help from wondering, it's so easy to crystallize and to find out what Rashida Tlaib really means. And I don't mean by the disgraceful people like Seth Meyers that invites her on and just throws her softballs and lets her just spout all her lies. Ask Rashida Tlaib certain questions. Invite her to an interview. I ask this of the establishment media, of journalists. It's very easy. Ask Rashida Tlaib some questions. Ask her views on the Banu Qurayza tribe and what the Prophet Muhammad ordered to have done to the Banu Qurayza tribe. Approximately, or at least 700 men of the Banu Qurayza tribe, that Jewish tribe, were beheaded, and Muhammad had ordered those beheadings. Ask Rashida Tlaib what she thinks about that. Ask her about the teachings on Jews being referred to monkeys and apes throughout the Quran, because the Jewish people are referred to as monkeys and apes, as we know throughout the Islamic world, by muftis, by clerics, by imams. They're referred to that in that way because of the Quran's teachings that the Jews were transformed into monkeys and apes. Ask her what she thinks about that. Ask her what she thinks about the hadiths, about the genocidal hadiths, about Muhammad's command to wage genocide on Jewish people. This is in Sahih Bukhari 452-177. This is in Sahih Muslim 6985. Ask her what she thinks. Invite Rashida Tlaib to an interview. Ask her what she thinks about Amin al-Husseini and all of his activity. Ask her about Mein Kampf and what she thinks about Mein Kampf being a bestseller in the Muslim world and in the Palestinian territories and among her ancestors or the descendants or the Palestinians today. Mein Kampf is a bestseller in the Palestinian world, in the Muslim world. Ask her what she thinks about that. You would think that Rashida Tlaib would have chosen that moment when she was talking about the Holocaust to perhaps apologize for the behavior of Amin al-Husseini. Perhaps she could have taken a moment to apologize for how the Arab world has launched wars to destroy Israel right after its creation and afterwards. Perhaps she would have expressed some regret. Perhaps Rashida Tlaib could express some regret about the very reality that if you had several Jewish people, let's say in Hasidic attire, walking through in the Palestinian territories in Gaza or in the West Bank, what would actually happen to them immediately? Perhaps Rashida Tlaib could apologize for that, could give her thoughts on that. She could give her thoughts and maybe regret on the fact that a synagogue cannot exist today in the Gaza Strip or in the West Bank. Why? But she's not asked any of these questions, but she should be, and it will crystallize the fact that she was not taken out of context in what she was really trying to say. Ladies and gentlemen, just wanted to touch on those issues today. And Nancy Pelosi, by the way, has reacted to this whole controversy by saying that Trump and other GOP members should apologize to Tlaib and to the American people for their gross misrepresentations. Nancy Pelosi should actually be asking Tlaib to apologize, because what she was saying in terms of everything I've shown today is disgusting and very much connected to a very ugly Holocaust denial. And as I said earlier, whenever you see Holocaust denial, you see the yearning for another Holocaust. Thank you for joining the Jamie Glazov moment tonight. Good night.